A very good afternoon to one and all. It's 3 p.m. already, and I think we have quite a few attendees for this session. So, hope you all are safe and sound at your home with your families. And on behalf of House of Hiranandani, it's a pleasure for us to host you all for today's insightful session on COVID impact on kids and preparing for the new normal. So, let's get started with, and let me introduce you all to Mr. Pradyuman Maheshwari, who is the moderator for today's webinar. Mr. Pradyuman is a senior journalist with over 34 plus years of experience in print and online media. So over to you, Mr. Pradyuman.
Thank you, Pranali, and welcome, Vanakkam, Namaskar to everyone here. These are troubled times, but I hope all of you are safe. Over the next hour or so, we will be having what promises to be an exceedingly informative session. I'm delighted to have here with us two exceedingly talented and expert doctors with us. As you are aware, the House of Hiranandani is a leading real estate company from India led by Mr. Surendra Hiranandani. The company has been developing huge townships in tier 1 cities such as Bengaluru, Chennai, and Hyderabad. Let me introduce you to our session today, which is titled COVID Impact on Kids and Preparing for the New Normal. Before proceeding ahead, let me also inform you that this session is being streamed live on the House of Hiranandani Facebook and YouTube handles as well. And we have a Q&A session open to all towards the end of the session. So please feel free to raise your hands and ask the question. You can also type your questions in the Q&A section here, and we can take it up from there. As we are all aware, Pranali mentioned about the new normal. One calls it the new abnormal, whatever you call it. But the last 1.5 years have been extremely cruel for humanity across the globe. Particularly the last 2 months in India, where we've seen the second wave. As we sail through this time, grasping a new lesson in every moment, there's a segment of our society who is yet to be introduced to the world. The existing chaos has already begun silently impacting them, creating a deep void and uncertainty. Yes, dear audience, I'm talking about the kids who are silently witnessing the entire unpleasant scenario. And perhaps they're not even witnessing well enough, and they're not even registering what has happened. Today, we have Dr. Soumya Bhaskaran, a child psychiatrist from Chennai, and also a resident of the House of Hiranandani, OMR, Chennai, and Dr. Lakshmi KN, an MD in pediatrics and a resident of the House of Hiranandani project in Hebal, to throw some light on the most sensitive and critical issue and answer your question on the subject. Welcome, Dr. Soumya and Dr. Lakshmi. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for inviting us.
It's a delight to have you here with us. And we are talking about being in the second wave. And soon there's going to be the third wave. And the third wave, it is being said that is going to be concerning kids. So let me come to you, Dr. Lakshmi.
Yes.
How would you describe the current scenario on COVID for children?
Yes. Sir, presently we're seeing quite a few number of kids with COVID positive cases in our clinics. The thing is, COVID-19 infection looks to be very mild, or they're on contact tracing due to a primary contact, they're turning out to be positive, but most of them are asymptomatic or mild. So COVID-19 per se, speaking about the disease itself, it's very mild in children presently. But the main concern presently is children isolated at home without school. There's no social life for them, and decreased physical activity, increased screen time, and exposure of some amount of disharmony at home because everyone's staying at home, and definitely unhealthy dietary habits. All these things are causing a major concern. And also there is normal routine is disrupted. Even sleep cycle is not so good. They sleep late. seeing mobile or TV, and they're so addicted to the screen. The next problem we are seeing is children with chronic conditions, suffering from other diseases like type 1 diabetes or asthma. There is failure to follow up with normal doctors. They're scared to visit clinics. And also, normal routine vaccination is not been happening normally, like properly. So they're scared to even come to the clinics. So these are the main problems we are seeing presently.
I can imagine it is really tough. If it's tough on adults, it's tough on kids very much. Dr. Soumya, let me ask you a question. While we are all aware of the physical impact on kids' health, how do you think has COVID impacted them mentally, if at all?
Right. I think carrying on from what Dr. Lakshmi addressed, I think there is has been an impact on kids. I mean, in terms of physically, we can understand that it's a mild infection, but this kind of isolation has played its impact. I think in terms of COVID, I look at two things. One is uncertainty. That is, do I go to school or not? Do I go to play today or not? Does my parent go to work or not? Is my parent sick or not? So there are endless questions and uncertainty in which even parents do not have answers. So that's one set of things that the children are battling. The other thing that we see is loss that all of us undergo, which is loss of our normal life, to go to the supermarket, I mean, to go out, to sometimes even when I go to the lift and I'm like, I don't have a mask, and I go back. So, things that we used to do without thinking before. These are all things we cannot do anymore. And I remember when COVID had just began last year, and I have a toddler who's about, now 3. So what he thought when people came, so if a new person comes, we must run away. So, that's how much uh, things are in terms of how socially distant people are. So I look at uncertainty and loss of normal routine. In the clinic, what I see is increased screen time, sleep disruptions, a lot of anxiety because of deaths flashing all the time on in the newspaper. There's vaccination, there's deaths, there are ambulances sounds. So I think anxiety, a lot more depression, language delays because of increased screen use, and difficulty in adjustment to online classes. So this is the range that we are seeing at this point.
In fact, as a psychiatrist, do you see that this has indeed impacted children considerably? The amount of negativity that is there, the ambulance sound, for years, and you have parents who try to wean away kids from the mobile phone, and they want them to instead go out to the playground. But now the thing is that you be at home and don't mind, play on my mobile phone or watch television.
No, exactly. I mean, like, as long as you can be quiet for a while, that's something that, because parents are so overwhelmed. So, earlier I used to practice, no screen time, nothing, absolutely zero. But now I'm like, everybody needs some respite, right? So how can we do as less screen time as possible? So we're, adjusting as clinicians also to the new normal, because we need the entire family to be at more stable in a way. I think Dr. Lakshmi brought that up, because how do we as a family be more stable and secure in these difficult circumstances? That's what we're aiming at, so that eventually it helps children.
Dr. Lakshmi, let me ask you this question now. Do you see that the third wave is for real? It's going to be coming up, and it is going to be impacting children?
So at this point of time, I think it's tough to predict whether third wave will majorly affect children. Yes, third wave might come, because pandemics tend to occur always in waves. So it depends on that mutation of the strain present during that time. But I think as adults, we have to take care of our kids and we take some precautions. Most of the children we see in our clinic have got the infection through their household, like through their parents, or a caregiver who gives care to the child comes from outside. So What I would suggest is always teach children how to wear mask. Any child between 5 to 11 years with minimal assistance, they can wear mask. Teach them how to wear a mask. Tell them the importance of social distancing. Definitely very important, and good hygienic measures, hand hygiene measures, how to wash their hands in soap and water often, and after touching any contact surfaces. And next most important is, as adults, I think we have to take more precautions. Not only if child goes out and plays, that's not the only way child might get infection. Yes, we might get the virus home. So we should avoid, as soon as there is decrease in number of cases in our neighborhood or cities, we should not let our guard down. We should avoid overcrowded areas or any social gatherings. Always wear mask, both adults and children, and follow all these hygienic measures. So it's tough to predict whether they will actually happen or not, but I think let's follow all these rules.
The challenge is when there's somebody in the home who is positive, or if the child herself or himself is positive. How do you grapple with that? What do you recommend to families who have a situation at home, who have a positive case at home, whether it's a kid or an adult, and if it's an adult or a kid, and especially at a younger age, they do spend time with each other.
Yes, yes. See, in pediatrics, it's not like adults because everything is age appropriate. Some below like 5, 6 years, they don't even understand what's happening. But whereas elder children or adolescents, they have their own anxiety. They watch news, they hear stories of someone dying, that they have some amount of anxiety. Yes. So what you have to do is you have to tell them the situation, what's happening. You have to let them speak with you openly, and you have to acknowledge their feelings and assure them it's natural to feel scared for the present scenario, and also tell them like it's a mild infection. Reassure them not everything will end up severely. It might just be infection. And as you said, sir, when there's a smaller child at home, it is very very tough to isolate one child in a room, and usually mothers will be isolated in a specific room with a separate bathroom. But still, when you have one more younger child at home, it will be extremely tough. At that time, whoever is infected at home, I think, should always wear a mask, stay far in a separate room. If they don't have such a facility at home, they have to maintain at least 6 feet distance. They have to use separate bed linens, towels, or dishes, and use a separate bathroom if possible. So I think by these following these techniques, they can stop spreading the infection. And also, I think the elder children should be openly approached and asked what is their main concern. Speak to them openly, and definitely teach them few things so that they don't get the infection.
Dr. Soumya, apart from the spreading of the infection, is the problem of the spreading of the disinformation, right? We have seen in the entire pandemic, there's a fair amount of disinformation that is being spread. Now, when it comes to children, and because children are also now accessing their mobile phones of their parents, how do you really grapple with this situation of the disinformation that is there? And if they do hear of cases of the of COVID striking a family, and there could well be a death in the family, or death of a loved one, or a friend's parent or grandparent or whatever. I'm sure you have been facing a lot of live cases in the recent past. What do you tell them? What do you advise people to do? I know there's no one ready solution for all the pains, but is there something that you would like to advise people?
Yeah, I mean, see, two different things. I mean, one, in terms of COVID, when we look at, let's say, young children, let's say 6 to 13, this age group that we're looking at, who are also accessing phones, looking at things. So I think with them, it's really important to, let's say once a week, have, let's say, a family meeting where we're like, okay, things that upset you, what are the things that you're seeing, and what's going on with that. So in terms of processing the information that they've gained, and a discussion. I mean, ideally, it should not be related only to COVID. It should be related to a range of things. But what's going on in your life, who are your friends, what's happening, what are you playing? But processing of COVID-related information also. Because when we see children, I mean, just after the wave resides, that's when we have a lot of children coming in with anxiety. So we also look at, can parents not be having the news channel is on all the time, something blaring, deaths, because there are children who say, so many deaths, so many people who are obsessively looking at, I've had children who are obsessively looking at how many deaths each. And I'm like, that's not helpful, right? So then we look at parents and say, can we not do that? Can we look at, even having the TV in another space, or to look at having parental controls to look at what are the kind of information that the child is watching. So one is looking at how much supply of information goes. Two is processing it. Now coming to the third thing, and as long as, and actually coming to it, what children need to know is that they are safe and their family is going to be safe. I mean, as long as that kind of a reassurance to a certain level can be given, and for them to see that parents are taking care of their health. So to say, look, I'm exercising, I'm eating healthy, I'm making sure that I'm taking my meds on time. So I'm making sure that I am as healthy as I can be. I think that's the kind of reassurance that children may be looking at. The second thing, when I look at death itself, I think even before COVID, talking about death to children has been a difficult thing. But like we say, children are resilient, they can take it if you tell them straight on. So if somebody in the family, let's say a grandparent, a parent is going to get admitted. So we say, we've spoken about COVID, right? We know that sometimes it causes mild illnesses, sometimes it causes major illnesses. And so dad is sick or granddad is sick and he had to be taken to the hospital. And then once in 2-3 days, we give them updates. And then we tell them, look, granddad was really not well. You saw him, and today the doctors tried everything, but he died today. And of course, that's predicated on the fact that you've already kind of, even 3-4-year-olds can understand death. So you've shown them an insect that dies, a plant that dies. So they say, so they will not come back. So where are they? No, heaven, this. So they've gone and they will not come back. So that is something, as difficult as it is to say, needs to be said. And then give them space to grieve. So children are going to be more clingy, more irritable with sleep disturbance, and constantly with one caregiver because they're going to be so insecure. After that, I think sticking to routines are still important because that's what gives children a feeling of security. And then following that, if the family is in a space, then looking at grief, I mean, ways to grieve. So can they write a letter to this person who's deceased? Can they make an album? Can they have a memory box where they put memories? Things like that to process, that person is not there, but the memories still remain with us. So that's the way that death and then how you process that grief goes along.
Yeah, one of the other problems that is happening is that there are no, play schools or whatever else a child from the age of 2 to 10 would be going, and that's the new abnormal is already forcing parents to experience that, and but does that impact, according to you? Either of you could take the question. Does that really do you think that will have a long-term impact on the psyche of children? Because you're not going out, you're not doing the kind of interaction that you want children to go through at this age of this phase of their life.
Yes, definitely, sir. Yes. At this point of time, 2 to 10-year-old children, especially 3 to 4-year-old children, because last year also there was no school. That's the age when they enter something called kindergarten and they get in touch, like they see other children of their own age group. For example, I saw these 2 toddlers in my clinic. one toddler was laughing at the other toddler so much because they were so excited to see each other. I think that was the first time that child even saw the other child, because always locked up in the house. So I think it's very important. There is some sort of connection. There's some sort of, this same age group. They don't have like, there's so many things that develops. There's for a good development, for a good growth, mental health. Yes, they need their own age group children so they can speak. They can be more open with them. Yes, it's definitely going to affect long term.
Dr. Soumya, you can also talk about a personal experience, right? How do you manage?
Yeah. I mean, I am hoping it's not going to that much, but let's see. Maybe that's also wishful thinking. But what I'm going to say is like, you know, children, in terms of development, yes, social development really takes place at this stage. But we also know that, so I don't want parents to be really scared, because when things get back to somewhat okay, if at all, I think the children catch up. So, I mean, the long and short of it, they will catch up. Don't worry too much. But coming to what we can do even now, in the sense, see, when we look at social skills, if that's what we're looking at, it is about a lot of pretend play children will be doing anyway. So it's about being there with them, engaging in pretend play. It's going to be about emotion. So, I've got this because I really thought that's important. So this book on feelings, okay, for younger children. So we have Are You Happy, Sad, things like that. So there are books like these available which discuss feelings. And a lot of children can say, like my 3-year-old will say, I'm angry. If you speak like this, I'm angry. So I'm like, okay, for everything, if you speak like this, I'm angry for what I'm not angry about. So, but they're able to do that. I'm sad. So it's about helping them express. Okay. And then to create connection, I think ways to create connection are, we have, let's say, grandparents sending in stories to them, making sure there are enough video chats going on with older people, younger people, extended family meetings. You write to them. I mean, we draw and like we make some greeting cards and we may send it. So, connection is really that. It's about preserving that kind of connection. Having said that, when my 3-year-old does see another child, he still runs. But I'm thinking it will get better. But I think coming to a last thing, to older children, 6 to 12, there's an interconnectedness that can also be possible. It's about thinking about other people. So you see people who are sick, what can we do for them? So can we make meals and send it for them? Can we check up how they are doing? So, I mean, to look at social skills only as peer interaction, I think it's larger than that. And as long as we're able to keep that, I think we should be hopeful, if anything.
Absolutely. And I think, the way I've seen it, of course, my daughter is much, much older, but the question is that I'm looking at this as an opportunity for bonding in the family. So we look forward to our meals together. We, talk and we discuss various things, and, not just watch television, and sometimes even play a board game, which we wouldn't otherwise. And, so these are opportunities. I guess one needs to look at ways and means to overcome that. Dr. Lakshmi, let me come to you with a question that we're talking about vaccination. There are enough and more people, for every person who wants to get vaccinated, there are perhaps 2 people who do not want to. And for whatever reason they have. Now, I know it's still early days, and I know that there are theories about when the 2 jabs should be distant, how long should they be distant. What do you think will be the plan for children when it happens? We do have some examples from elsewhere in the world.
Yes. Pfizer is already vaccinating children about 12 years in the US, as we know. Presently, still studies are going on, sir, in India. We're still not sure what's going to happen. Some say that nasal vaccines are better than the injectables, and so still studies are going on. We still don't know what's going to happen, because it is not like children are not mini adults. They have a separate system, how the system works is entirely different from adults. So I think it's going to take a long time. As far as my knowledge is concerned, there are two companies, Bharat Biotech and Zydus Covid, which is doing trials for even children. This is my knowledge. So probably it's going to be updated in some more time, few months probably. And one more thing I forgot to mention when you asked me how to prevent, third wave. All adults in the family should be vaccinated, even if a caregiver is coming from the outside. There are studies which show that vaccinated individuals transmit less of a virus. So there you're going to break the chain. Definitely you're going to prevent the third wave by doing so. I'm speaking adult vaccination.
Yeah, I guess a lot has to do with how adults and parents behave themselves, right? We have to take care of our own lives and we have to set the right example. Is that something that you tell your people who come to you, Dr. Soumya, to parents to behave and to show the right to?
I mean, if we talk about vaccination, I mean, I wanted to look at that and I'm like, let's vaccinate. So, I mean, even though I practice child psychiatry, but I'll always be like, did you get a vaccine? Did you get a vaccine? Did you get a vaccine? Because I think that's so important with all of that thing about, oh my God, somebody will die if they take somebody. And I'm like, nothing happens. Can you please? So I think each person, I think it's our duty to make sure that people are getting vaccinated so that everybody around is safe. So I think that's a social responsibility. So I think that's something that is, so necessary. So that's one level. But I think if I come to the larger thing about parents, I think in one way, like my own mom tells me that she says, child psychiatrists, you'll always find fault with the parents. That's it. Nothing is wrong with the child. Only parents are at fault. But I think being a parent also helped to look at parents with more kind eyes, I think. So nowadays, I'm not that. But see, with this pandemic, if I had to think of something for parents, I think it's about being kinder to themselves because this is such a difficult time. So as long as the parents are kinder to themselves, taking care of themselves, setting at least, I think it's so important for women because they do bear a larger burden, if I may say so. But that they must take half an hour of free time for themselves, engage in some exercise or some hobbies, so that their mood is so much better. Because I think the parent is the environment now. Because earlier children would go to school, they'd have friends, so they had different environments. Now there is only one, which is home. So I think it is more than before important that is a stable and secure environment, and that can only happen when parents are taking care of themselves.
We've just crossed the halfway mark, so I'm going to invite all our viewers here to send in the questions. In case you have any questions, we have two doctors at the house, and what better an opportunity for you over here. So we have our first question, which has come in, and this is from Devanik. Can I go for a flu vaccination for my kids? One is 7-year-old and the other is 2+. Sorry, this question is from Manju Dabas.
Yes, this is also one major concern, sir. So many people have this. First answer is yes. Please go ahead, get your kids vaccinated for the flu vaccine. Then the second part, most of the people are not coming for routine vaccination. They're scared. We might catch the virus in the clinic. So please, there are outbreak-prone diseases like diphtheria, measles, mumps, chickenpox. So you have to vaccinate your children according to normal routine vaccination schedule, so that your kids are protected against all these specific diseases. Yes, they can go ahead for the flu vaccine.
Right, thank you. We have another question, which is from an anonymous attendee who asks, can we let adolescents go out for a walk alone within the apartment?
That's a very difficult question. I mean, that really depends on the apartment rules, I think. But I feel, see, it's a very tricky thing with adolescents specifically. It's not about, I mean, if your building rules allow it, I think it's healthy for adolescents to, and for everybody to get some sun with a mask. But it's also about, it needs to be embedded in the context of social responsibility. To say, one teen goes down, then the other comes down, then the third one comes down, and they're all without masks, then they're hanging out together. So to say, look, as a socially responsible young person, because teens are also thinking about all of these things, they have high moral values. I must do this, change the world. So I think it is really in terms of social responsibility. So, what is your responsibility towards our building, towards other people? And with that discussion, I think if the apartment and the guidelines allow it, I think they can go. If Dr. Lakshmi has something to add.
Yes, I agree to whatever you're saying. They should follow all these rules, and you just have to tell them, don't get the virus soon. Or you have to tell them how to maintain social distancing, because adolescents, kids, usually they're physically like adults, but psychologically they're still like kids. They neither listen to you nor they have their own actual thinking. So you have to make them understand that don't make a crowd over there. Don't go too near to people whom you don't know well. So I think this must do. Everyone's scared, pretty scared now, and they don't know. They know the situation. So I think it's okay to let them go for a walk inside the society. Depends again, as she said, how big is a society, everything.
Right. We have a question from Vantrikaru Viresh Bangi, who asked, can a COVID diagnosed 5-year-old kid and a 1.5-year-old kid take routine immunization of DT and Penta?
Yes. Yes, they can, after they're completely cured and after 6 weeks gap, yes, they can take normal routine vaccination.
Right. We have another question from Namita, and I know Dr. Sonia, you've already responded to something like this. I have a 2-year-old. As we don't step out all these days, there's not much space at home. Would it impact his physical growth?
Should I take that?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. I think 2-year-olds love to run, jump. So even if there's small space, I think it's nice to put 2 chairs, put a tent, let them go from inside. If you have a sofa, I'm sure they would like to jump from here to there, jump them on the bed. That's what we do. They like cleaning, give them cloth, they will clean. They will wash things. Of course, they make things more difficult for you in terms of cleaning. But I think anything that you do, they can do, which is so. I think kitchen time, they can clean your utensils, take vegetables out. So anything, handwork, leg work, running, jumping, climbing, let them. I think children have an innate understanding of what their physical body needs. As long as you keep things safe and let them go about it without saying, oh, don't go there, don't climb there, don't jump here, I think they will be okay.
Dr. Lakshmi, there's a question from Namrata Arora, who says there's no direct sunlight that comes to a house. And obviously she thinks that exposure to sun is important for toddlers as these are the growing years. She's worried that, the kids might not get enough vitamin D and suffer from the vitamin D deficiency.
Yes, she's absolutely right. So if there's not enough sun, what I would suggest is morning times, 15 to 20 minutes with minimal clothing. Take them for a walk. I think that would suffice.
Right. There's a question from Kalyani Sangya, who asks, what is your advice on steam inhalation? Does it really help in not getting the infection? And I'm sure she is also asking specifically about steam inhalation for children.
Sir, can you please repeat the question?
What is your advice on steam inhalation? Does it really help in not getting the infection? And a question that she's not raised, but the question is that does steam inhalation impact children? Could there be an adverse impact?
First of all, steam inhalation will not prevent COVID infection. It might, if at all child has slight run, like stuffy nose, it might help in relieving the stuffiness, that's all. And yes, repeated steam inhalation depends on how many times they take in a day. So there are a few people who take repeatedly. I don't think it will affect a child per se, except the skin, heat causing some skin problems, that's all.
Right. We have a question from Rajesh Kumar, and this is to Dr. Soumya. I stay away from my family for work purposes. During this lockdown in Tamil Nadu, most of the working fathers are with the family, but I'm not. My son asks his mother, all the fathers are with their children, why am I not with my father? How do I deal with it? He is 4 years old.
Right. Yeah. I think this is a difficult situation and he's four. So it's important to look at, what are the kind of things. So it's a fun one is validation to say, yes, of course, you miss dad and you really want to be with dad, right? So, I mean, one is validating as opposed to saying, no, 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 but daddy loves you, no, daddy does this. So say, yes, of course, you're missing dad. And then to look at, what are the kind of things that you would like to do with dad when dad is around. So you also get where is this coming from? It'll come from, I want somebody to take me here, I want somebody to buy me this, or I want dad to, when he does this, he plays this with me. So it's also about looking at whether to say, mom can do this. And three is to let's make a list of things. So look at this. Dad has this job, it means he can't come. He will come if he knows a little bit Sunday, Monday, or dates, then we look at, that's when he's going to come. So you can cross out each day that dad, so many days later that dad will come. Apart from that, then there's also, you can make a list to see, what are the things we could do when dad comes. So there's still something like that where you draw something and you say, these are the kind of things that we do when dad comes back. So validate, give him a rough time frame when you'll be back. Look at what are the things that he's expecting to do with dad. What mom can do, mom will do. What cannot be done, will wait for dad to come. I think that's what you can do.
Right. I know these are really tough times, and especially when parents are away and they're not able to come in because of the travel restrictions. It's really bad. We have a question which has come in from an anonymous attendee. There are kids going out to play or for cycling, and when my kids look at this, he also wants to go. So how do I handle this situation?
I'll pass on this question to Dr. Soumya.
That is so not fair. I think this is a really difficult question. And I think it depends on, like, let's say it's this time. So, like, let's say Coimbatore, I'm staying at Coimbatore at this point, and Coimbatore has the highest number of cases in Tamil Nadu. So, I don't think, I, as a parent, if my child were to cycle, I wouldn't be able to send him at all. So, I think it's about addressing you're disappointed. Yes, those children are going. You're disappointed about not going, but what are the rules in our house? Our rules are when there's strict lockdown, we cannot go down. And I am so sorry. And if he says, no, I am very angry, I am upset with you, you're the worst parent. And I will take it and I'll say, that's how bad you feel. And I will stay with it. I will be with the emotion. I will reassure, but I can't back down because going down means involved getting COVID. And once the child is feeling a little better, I may sit with him and say, look, we've discussed COVID, mild infection, this, and what do we do for other people? When we stay away from people at this point, it means we're not getting infected and not getting other people infected. And I think that's so important. So I'm really sorry, I cannot do that. And so be the bad parent for a little bit. So what? That's what
we have a question that is coming from Ms. Arpita, who asks, can you give us some information about natural immunity booster food for kids under 10 years? I know immunity is perhaps one of the most searched words last year, but this is a valid question, I think. What is it that one can do to fortify kids?
I answered this question at least 10 to 20 times in a day. So I think I'm well versed in this. So, see, no multivitamins, no medicines can boost your immunity. The problems, what's happening with COVID-19 is because of hyperimmune response. So, I don't think you will have to boost the immunity. And one main thing is children, as it is, they have good immunity. What regulates your immunity basically? Good night's sleep, then good healthy food, uh, physical activity. What WHO recommends is moderate to vigorous exercises, at least 60 minutes in a day. So all these things regulate our immunity more than any medicines or vitamins. No. Healthy diet, balanced diet. This is all I can say. And I think, as one more person pointed out, vitamin D, definitely exposure to some amount of sunshine per day is definitely important. That can be done. And other things, I have in fact written multivitamins. I'm not denying because parents were really anxious, but these are the only things which will regulate a person's immunity. That's it.
Dr. Soumya, there's a question which has come in, and something similar to what you answered, but the very fact that so many questions concern these issues. This is from Monisha Dosa Bhatia, who asks, everything is being done on gadgets, school, homework, socializing, entertainment. How much is too much for children to be spending on gadgets? For an 11-year-old in her case that she's asked. But
Right.
honestly, I see my screen time on my cell phone, which my cell phone declares to me every week, has increased considerably. And that number has only a percentage is increasing every week. And I'm sure that's going to be that holds true for children. So what's a good time?
Okay. Now, before COVID times, there are very clear guidelines. I don't know with COVID what are the guidelines, but I think they should have a tweak. But I'll tell you, there are guidelines about screen time. I think there's a very strict guideline, less than 2 years, do not show them any screen. I think that's something that holds true with or without COVID. I think anybody listening, I think this is a public service announcement, which I've been wanting to do for a long time. Less than 2, please do not show gadgets to children. 100%, or not 100%, but it really causes language delays. So that's one. From 3 to 5, less than an hour, lesser the better. 5 to 11, 2 hours was the guideline. 11 to 18, 3 to 4 hours was the guideline. But how I'm looking at with online school, and I think less than 5 online school makes no sense. It's really online school for parents. So let's not get our less than 5-year-olds to attend online school. But beyond that, I think apart from online school, it's about what the children are watching really. I'm not talking about teens, that's a different thing. But young people, it's about what are they watching? Because now you cannot go and say to husband, what will they do? Can't go out. Can't be, then what will they do? So it's about looking at, okay, what can they watch? So let's at least curate that. So online school, and then looking at, okay, what are your interests? So will you still engage in a hobby? Will you learn something online if they wish? Or, they like animals. Will they watch live zoo feeds? Will they research on something? So some time that's spent on that. Some time on entertainment. Some time with family chores. Some time bonding as a family. Some time reading. So it's really about looking at how it is spent. Now I look at it as how it is spent rather than how much. So as long as they're doing it with, not mindlessly just scrolling through YouTube videos, I think we should be okay.
We have a question from Gautam. It says, my kid is more interested in identifying things and pointing out items in kitchen, but not an animal or fruit in a picture book. Is this a worrying factor? How do you advise to shift the interest towards the books?
I'm not sure how old this child is. That would really make things. I'm thinking this child is less than 2. If not, then you must see a doctor. But I'm saying it doesn't matter if the child is now pointing in a book. Chuck the book. If the child is interested in real world things, show real world things. Show the fan, show the light, show things in the refrigerator, show birds and animals that fly and are downstairs that you can see. But it's about, I think a child less than 2 should be able to identify a lot of things and able to understand a lot of language that is spoken at home. So as long as that's happening, I'm not very concerned that the child doesn't like the book. The other way to get children to like books is parents should be reading a lot of books.
Precisely.
So
I think that's a very important factor. We have a question from Shikha Sharma, who says, my daughter is going to be 2 years old next month. So in a way, she has not seen the outer world as much as she should have seen in normal conditions. I have my doubts about her mental growth, as this is a time for kids to observe and learn, which my child has missed and may be missing much in the coming times. How should I engage her with the outer world? And I'm presuming that she is not really getting an opportunity to take the child outside, even in an apartment complex.
would you like to take that, Dr. Lakshmi?
Lakshmi, would you like to take it, Dr. Lakshmi?
Yeah. See, children's brain is very flexible. I don't think just because I've not seen anything presently, I don't think her development will be hindered. Probably some amount of social development might be, but then definitely they'll catch up with that. It's a good thing that if you can go just take them for a walk, but under safety measures, because presently definitely being protected from COVID-19 important. So, but they will definitely catch up as they grow older. That's all I can say.
Thank you. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. How much risk is a less breastfed child prone to? There's no mention made about whether the mother has had COVID or not. So it's a very general question. If you could take that, Dr. Lakshmi.
Yes, depends. Oh, if mother is having COVID-19 infection, usually newborn babies will get COVID-19 infection majority times, but not always, because this COVID-19 infection is more infective during incubation period when they don't even know they have infection before even the symptoms start. But breastfeeding definitely protects a child against moderate or severe disease. But just getting the infection, child might get the infection. There is a difference between developing disease and getting the infection. As I said, asymptomatic ones with no disease per se, with no symptoms, but they have infection. So yes, it might help them recover sooner, and it will definitely help them with not progressing into moderate or severe disease. That's what I feel.
Right. We have a question which Dr. Lakshmi, perhaps you could take in terms of, the amount of screen time, and we've been discussing that. How safe is it health-wise in terms of for a child's eyes? How many hours is it safe to be watching, whether the cell phone or television or whatever else?
Before this COVID-19 pandemic, we had totally different rules for screen time. Like what I would suggest, maximum a hour or less than 1 hour. But then with this pandemic and children inside houses, yes, screen time is something we have to let them do because there's no other way. They'll be busy the whole day. But I think you can, depends on the age appropriate. It to be more age appropriate. Sir, can you mention what's the age of the child? Is there any
So the
mention?
age is not mentioned, but could you broadly give a range if the child is, say, under 5 and over 5?
Yes, under 5, not more than, like according to old guidelines, it was not more than an hour. See, there are different guidelines according to ophthalmological societies, according to pediatric societies, and then psychiatrists. There is different guidelines, but what I personally feel is not more than an hour for under 5. And the older age group, not more than 2 hours. That would be appropriate. But then, yes, we have to always speak practically also, not always, speaking the older times. So, but definitely it will cause some amount of like eye stress, all these things. And elder age group children, there is unrestricted view. We don't know what they're watching because it's more of a personal screen. So yes, it might cause some amount of mental disturbances also. That's what I can say regarding
Right.
this.
We have two questions from parents of children who are 5-year-old, and perhaps Dr. Soumya, you could take it. I've got to read out both the questions. The first one is, my son is 5 years old. He's interested in random play, and when proposed to learn a specific skill like riding a bicycle as a new hobby, he does not show interest. Though he's capable of learning, how do I encourage them to learn or get them to follow a consistent routine? And the second question is from Harsha Goel, who asks, a new normal is still far away. Kids are locked in respective homes. How does one make my 5-year-old kid handle it? He has stopped going near the main door, as the house is a new world, not knowing the complete situation outside. So two questions which concern the 5-year-old. One is, of course, about
Right. I mean, when I look at 5-year-olds, I'm looking at, let's go by what their interests are as opposed to making sure that they learn a specific thing, because young children really have a mind of what they want to learn. So they will be giving you cues on and off. I think with especially young people, more and more people need to be parents need to be looking at, okay, 3 to 4, what are the kind of things that children are interested in, 4 to 5, even developmentally. So I think take cues from your child. If he is, and a lot of them will definitely show a lot of interest in whatever mom and dad are doing. So I think I would divide it into many domains. Household chores is something they're very interested in. Get them to do that. Make sure they have getting enough physical activity. And if you feel the child is absolutely not willing, then I think a 5-year-old can make them sit with you and say, you know what, these are the kind of activities that I think we can do. What would you like to do? So they will even pick some of the things. They say, I want to do reading with you. I'm thinking maybe we'll do cycling. We can do some playing with sand. We can do some painting, and they will choose. So what are you looking at? Gross motor, fine motor, something social, some handwork, some basic reading. So you look at all of these areas, plan some tasks. I mean, communicate with your child and see what he's willing to learn. So follow the child's lead. That's what I'm saying.
We have a question that has come in which says, my kids are turning extremely aggressive and emotional since the pandemic. Do I need to worry? And I guess, how does the parent handle this situation?
I think that's something, it depends on the age. I mean, it's not usual for children to get aggressive specifically. So I'm thinking something is off. So I'm also going to request you to look at how your mood is. I mean, how are things at home? Are they stressful? Is something anxiety provoking happening? So that's something we have to look at. And if it's aggressive in terms of physically aggressive, then that's something that needs, I think you should take a psychologist or a psychiatrist's help to just look at what's happening. If nothing of that sort, then I think it's important to sit with the child and say, I've noticed since this, you've become so angry, and I'm wondering what it is. So, can you talk to me about it? I'm really worried. I want to know. So I think that's the way to go. But I think I'd keep my antennas up and act, because it's not usual.
There's a question from Jalpa Vinod Kumar, who says, my son is a 5-year-old who's interested in free play and no structured play that involves learning. He seems defiant about anything suggested. How do I get him to the routine? Soumya, again, this is a question for you.
Like I said, do not push children, follow their lead. If he likes free play, let him do free play. They do not come to our thing. They will follow their lead. We do not have to XYZ, involve them in whatever you're doing if you can. And it'll be okay. He's just fine.
A lot of the questions that have come in are of a similar nature. Like, for instance, this one question that has come in is from Anoop, who says, I have a 12-year-old and she was very actively active academically and with other activities, but due to the last year being at home and having only online classes, she has completely lost interest in studies and physical activities. We've tried lots of ways to bring her attention back, but that has gone, waste. So these are issues that are there across, and I think we've had a great session today, but clearly the problem of the new abnormal or the second wave has thrown up an all new scenario, and which is so much closer home. Some final words from both of you, Dr. Lakshmi. We're talking about kids having faced whatever they have, and till now it has not really impacted kids as much, but we are being told that the third wave will impact kids. Your final view on how to kind of be ready for the next 3
Pratik,
months?
sir,
Yeah.
just to interrupt, before we go ahead with the final word, can we just see if any of the participants want to ask?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Kanchan Makhija had raised her hand, so
Yeah. So I'll do that. Cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, let me ask you that, because in case you were had some thoughts together, Dr. Lakshmi.
Yes, yeah. First of all the questions, majority of the questions asked to Soumya, what I was observing is, you tell a child, you do this, you do that. Most of the times, children will never listen to you. You have to do something and they will follow you. See, majority of the children I see who come to clinic and will be wearing lipstick. I see mother, she's also wearing a lipstick. So what they do, children always tend to copy. So you fix a normal routine for yourself. You wake up early morning, you exercise for some time along with the child, you eat healthy food, you follow certain rules, and children will definitely come into line. So, and let them be free, because these are tough times for us as well as for them. We know, we have some perspective of what's happening. Children don't even know what's happening. They just know that they can't go out, they can't enjoy with their friends. There's so many restrictions for them, and their knowledge, their thinking, everything is limited. So yes, set the rules, you follow them, they will definitely follow. These are the things which can be normally done. Coming to the third wave, as I told you before, these three things: social distancing, mask, and hand hygiene measures. Don't let your guard down at any point. See, once we see what happened like 2 months back, I used to see so many people used to walk around without mask. They thought, oh, COVID is over. There are so many less cases. And the worst part is, children used to come with a proper mask, because adults, they come, they sit down, and they have to speak. They remove their mask and speak. I'm like, what's happening? See, as adults, I think we should be well educated of what's happening, what we should do, and yes, we should be more responsible now, because already second wave has happened and it's caused so much of problem. So kindly follow these rules, and when you protect yourself, you also protect your child. Don't get the virus. These are things I can tell you, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a couple of people who had raised their hands to ask the questions. Mr. Srinivasan, do you have the question? Would you like to speak?
I have asked them to unmute.
Yeah, they haven't. And
Yes.
Kanchan Makhija, would you also ask a question?
I don't think so. I can see any raised hands right now, I think. I mean,
all right. So
the doctors might have answered their questions, like
yeah, we have, and some of them over and over again. So Dr. Soumya, most of the questions have been asked to you. While it's very clear that there are COVID is a lot about the medical issues involved, but as we've seen with children as well as with grown-ups, it is more about fighting it in the mind. And your final words to our audience here?
I think my thing would be that I mean, my overall message would be, let's be kind to ourselves. It's okay. We need to survive this. So this is a difficult situation. So it's okay to make mistakes, in the sense that parents are angrier, more irritated. So I think talk about feelings, ask about children's feelings, apologize, and that's how you're teaching emotional regulation to your children. So a lot of times I take 5 minutes off and I'll say, I need 5 minutes, and I'll go out and come back, so that, and then that's okay. So take care of your health. I think children need your time. Be with them. For younger children, follow their lead. For older children, converse, reassure. With teens, negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. And I think we should be able to survive this. And children are the most resilient people. And I think things will be okay.
I can see one of the drawings at the back in your background, which says "Hang in there," and I guess that's perhaps the best way to look at it, right? For all of us, let's hang in there. Let's try and hope for the best. Let's look at following all the norms that I advised, and some of which are also changed. But the fact of the matter is that ensure safe distance, ensure that you mask up, ensure that you follow hand hygienes, and all of that one needs to maintain. We all keep hearing about the third wave coming in. Perhaps it will come, perhaps it will not. But whatever wave comes in, I'm sure if we follow some of these norms and we follow that, it's a lot in the mind. And if we are able to do that, especially with our kids, we will be able to come out of it stronger and better. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Soumya Bhaskaran and Dr. Lakshmi, for spending your time here. And let's wish safe times to everyone. Thank you very much. And over to the team at the House of Vrindan.
Thank you, Pradyuman sir. It was really nice of you, and really thanks Dr. Soumya and Dr. Lakshmi for giving us your time. And your session was really very insightful, and I'm sure we did have lots of questions which we answered, and we'll definitely take up the other questions on our social media as well. So really thank you for your time. And I would like to thank all the attendees, and I hope this session was really useful for all of you. So yeah, that's it. And thank you all for attending, and please stay home and stay safe. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
We can log out.
Yes, yes.